There is a bit of a trend developing in regards to which type of players the San Francisco 49ers are bringing in for pre draft visits and also who they have met formally throughout this pre draft process. That leads us to Western Kentucky wide receiver Malachi Corley. Now, he is scheduled to come in to Santa Clara on a top 30 visit, but he's not the only wide receiver so far that has been named to come in on a top 30 visit. Also, we found out earlier today, USC wide receiver Brendan Rice, obviously son of Jerry Rice, has also been scheduled to come in for a top 30 visit. And let's try to talk about why these trends are important. And then we will actually talk about Malachi Corley and why he's a really good wide receiver. But let's talk about the trends first, because what we're starting to see, and you can date back to the NFL Combine when I spoke to multiple of the top end wide receivers in this class who have had formal meetings with the San Francisco 49ers during that time, which is important to note because guys like Xavier Legette, South Carolina wide receiver, big bodied guy, moves really well for his size, getting a lot of AJ Brown comps. You had other guys like Xavier Worthy, the Texas wide receiver who broke the 40 combine record with how fast he run. Washington wide receiver Jalen McMillan, he met with them as well. And so we're starting to see a trend where the 49ers are clearly looking for a wide receiver. And the wide receiver range it feels like that they're looking for is around second and third round. I don't see a world that exists where the 49ers are taking a wide receiver in the first, but it does feel like they are absolutely open to taking one of these guys second, third round, potentially. And also, the reason why these trends are important, especially the top 30 visits, when you look back to, like, let's say the year Debo Samuel was drafted, he came in on a top 30 visit. He actually came in a trio with, at the time, AJ Brown and N'Keal Harry. They all three visited the 49ers at the same exact time. It was a pretty interesting way to go about that visit. But hey, the 49ers drafted one of those guys, and it was Debo Samuel. So there are trends in place that show the 49ers typically go after some of the guys that they've met with and had formal meetings with. I mean, not a surprise, right? So when we look at guys like Malachi Corley who are coming in, he is kind of like your Debo Samuel. When you look at kind of archetype, you look at frame, you look at how he wins, all those different types of things. He's 5'11, 215 pounds, junior coming out of Western Kentucky. And if you look at a lot of the wide receiver rankings, he might not even come in the top 10 in a lot of them, but he is an absolute dog on the field. I mean, his nickname is the Yak God because he's almost impossible to tackle. You go look at what he did at the Senior Bowl and some of the reps that he put up. Dude absolutely pancaked a cornerback trying to press him in a one-on-one drill. I was like, whoa, he is physical with a capital PH. He is a physical wide receiver and fits that mold of the Debo Samuel type mentality of how just not going down on first contact. It's just not going to happen. So this is a guy that I think is a very intriguing prospect. He came onto my radar about mid-year last season, and I've just kind of been following along ever since. This is the first time I've highlighted him and talked about him, but I've known about him since about halfway through last year. He ran a 4.4640, which has him in the 66th percentile amongst all of draft eligible wide receivers. And I think that's pretty solid 40 time, if you ask me. He's about 215 pounds, actually has him on the heavier side in the 81 percentile, but he still moves really well at that size. And he's, again, a guy who may project best as a slot wide receiver in the NFL, maybe not your X type, but a guy who's going to play around the line of scrimmage. You get the ball into his hands quickly. And what is he going to do? He's going to do the Yak God things. that has got him that nickname. And again, he's very difficult to tackle. And when you look at Debo Samuel, Debo Samuel doesn't win downfield with long developing routes and things like that. He wins in a bunch of crafty ways. It's basically just get the ball in Debo Samuel's hand around the line of scrimmage and let him cook. So when you look at Malachi Corley, he's kind of built in that same kind of mold. And when you look at what he did at Western Kentucky, he had 79 receptions for 984 yards and 11 touchdowns. And when you actually look into those numbers even further, he has one of the lowest depths of target um, situations in the entire college football, meaning it sound very similar to Debo, right? His depth of target is very, very small, meaning he gets the ball around the line of scrimmage. However, his yards after catch per reception are the highest. So, if let me explain that. He gets the ball very close to the line of scrimmage, but once the ball is in his hands, he has the largest yards after catch per reception rate in college football. At least that was that way in 2020. And from my understanding, it was that way in 2023 as well. So keep that in mind. This guy is a get the ball in his hands, let him work. And when you talk about 2022, he had 101 receptions, almost 1,300 receiving yards, only 2 touchdowns, but the production was there for sure. He brought the touchdown production in 2023, and you can see it kind of level out. But he did have solid production in 2021 as a sophomore as well, 73 receptions, 691 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So he's been a producer in college. Yes, he's played at Western Kentucky, kind of a lower level conference in Conference USA, but still D1 ball, and he's still balling. So that's a guy that I think we should keep on our radar. I think he's a guy that he's been on my radar. He did really well at the Senior Bowl. And I think he's definitely one of those Kyle Shanahan dog type mentality wide receiver guys. Like, so this I do think is actually like a viable option, second, third round potentially. You might be able to even get him in the third. If you could get this guy as a third round wide receiver, that would be something that I think would be a great value and a great fit. Just considering it's really hard to find Debo style players, and this guy is in that mold. He is a force to be reckoned with the ball in his hands. So I'm curious to know, what do you guys think about Malachi Corley? Would you be interested in him being a San Francisco 49er? And would you take a flyer on a second or third round wide receiver in this draft? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.